Hello my fellow designers, welcome back to D-Life HD. This is Victor, and today we're going to be discussing Immortals Fenyx Rising. I finally started to play this game after lots of people badgering me to, and honestly, it's going pretty well. So without any further delay, let's jump right into it.
I was a worker, had to upgrade to a boss. Used to live in the hood, but had to upgrade to a low.
Immortals Fenyx Rising is an open-world game set around Greek mythology and all of their gods and monsters that they have set around what they believed in way back in the day. And it's on all consoles. And if you haven't heard much about the game up until now, it is heavily inspired by The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which is one of my favorite video games of all time. In fact, most people would put it as the best game on the Nintendo Switch. So with this game recently coming out, you'd think lots of people would be jumping on the bandwagon, and that's exactly the case. It is exactly like Zelda in so many ways, and others it differs, but in a lot of ways, you know, this is basically a Breath of the Wild clone. Right down to the climbing mechanics. There are even these sort of puzzle sections that take you directly from the main map out into a smaller area, and that's exactly how the shrines operate. Even right down to being limited to one section of the map, one small section of the map, so you can get all the different mechanics that you'll have in the game. In Breath of the Wild, you're limited to the Great Plateau right before you can go off and adventure around the entire map. And throughout that time, you learn how the game operates, you start to work with the physics, and you get all of your different runes. So, you know, the bomb, the ability to make ice appear from water, magnesis, and the ability to freeze things in time, stasis. And so you get all these different abilities, and then finally you have the opportunity to go off of the area and go out and explore. And in this game, you're going through and getting all the different types of weapons by going into these shrine-like areas and exploring. And although the game is different from Breath of the Wild in a lot of ways, I'd say the main appeal for somebody who is a fan of Zelda is probably coming in and having to be able to experience a new Breath of the Wild style game. And that's really cool because there haven't been a whole lot of games that are so close to Breath of the Wild since its release back in 2017. Also, this game takes a lot of DNA from the Assassin's Creed franchise. I've done a little bit of research in sort of understanding that franchise. It's one that I've never dug too deep in. There are a couple of the games on the Nintendo Switch that I have been excited to potentially get my hands on and see where the franchise has come from, because honestly, these newer games, they may not be heavily leaning into the assassin aspect, but just having more open world games, it looks really fun. Like Assassin's Creed Valhalla looks like a game that's right up my alley. I love the sort of Viking aesthetic. And so Immortals Fenyx Rising is sort of just the perfect blending of this new franchise that I've never really played, new to me that is, and something that I love so much, and that's Breath of the Wild. I've spent so much time in that game, and although I haven't seen everything the game has to offer, I feel like I have spent the amount of time in Breath of the Wild that I want to, and I won't be going back anytime soon, especially with the sequel around the corner. So it's basically like being able to experience a new aspect of Breath of the Wild to me, and that's really special, honestly. Not many games have been able to capture that. And not only that, but they have these major DLCs that are going to be coming out eventually, and they're set in different types of mythology. One being Chinese mythology, which I have found extremely interesting, especially recently. I've been really digging into Chinese mythology and starting to understand, you know, what they believed in, and it's a lot of fun to understand, and being able to play games set around that. I'm really looking forward to playing that DLC, and I hope it's of a grand scale, because the Immortals Fenyx Rising base map is not extremely large. It's big, but it's not massive, and I have a feeling that they're going to be doing these DLCs with map sizes probably about the same amount. So you kind of pay your base entry price to play the game, and then you've got other games sort of at your fingertips, set in other mythology type worlds. And I think that is extremely exciting, especially if they sort of drip feed them. I know they've got at least 2 of them lined up. I'm not sure what their plans are for the future, because another game similar to this was Starlink, which was on all platforms and had some Nintendo exclusive content. And I also played that game and really enjoyed it, also from Ubisoft. And then later, while the game felt humongous on its own, they went ahead and dropped a massive DLC that added an entirely new planet and tons to do. So even after they released sort of this DLC content that everybody's waiting for, I have a feeling they might support this game, especially considering it being on all platforms and people being able to experience it however they want. If they want to play it with beautiful visuals and play it on the Xbox, go for it. If you want to play it in handheld mode, which I'm actually playing it on my Nintendo Switch Lite, so it's just this extremely portable system that I can take around and play this game, this open world adventure, go for it. The port to Nintendo Switch, it feels fine. It's a game with not super demanding graphics and visuals, and so it really doesn't take as much of a hit as you'd think it would, being a giant open world game. There are a few issues that I have noticed so far, one being the controls are just really clunky. It's probably because I'm used to Breath of the Wild. I've played it for countless amounts of hours, and I'm probably just used to the way the game controls because they feel so similar. But also, they feel ever so slightly different that it kind of bugs me in a sense. Like, oh, this should be this way, because my brain sort of carved these pathways as to how Breath of the Wild should operate, and so that's sort of a me thing. But if you're really used to Breath of the Wild and all of its mechanics, you probably have a more difficult time adjusting to this game. Now, I'm not usually one to go in and mess with the controls and inputs and things, but they had all of the attack buttons mapped to the triggers and bumpers, and I just didn't like that. So I went ahead and switched things up so that way my main attack would be on my face buttons, being the Y button, which is the same attack as it is for Breath of the Wild. And so I'm sort of working out the control scheme to fit what I'm used to. But overall, I'm really enjoying the game, and I just can't wait to see what happens in the story, because honestly, I haven't progressed the story a whole lot. I've kind of just been running around and killing things. That's sort of what I do with open world games at first, I don't care about the story. I'll come back to you later. And I am really enjoying my time with it, especially being able to play it in handheld mode. Of course, this is more of an early impressions video. I might have a review coming out later, but we'll see. This is a bit of an older game now, I guess. Video game industry moves so fast. I know this game is a month old. In fact, Ubisoft put out a sale and I managed to snag it really cheap, honestly, and it's only a month old. So let me know in the comments if there's interest for me to do a review of this game. I will definitely be right on it. But otherwise, yeah, I'm really enjoying my time, and as of now, if you're a fan of Breath of the Wild, I can highly recommend this game to you. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Let us know in the comments down below what you thought of this video. We love talking to you guys. Remember to like and subscribe for more videos like these. Also, check the description for a link to our community Discord. Lastly, check our Twitter account for gameplay on the latest releases. But most importantly, always remember to stay 1-up.